The 16th century in Europe was a time of great change and discovery. It was a period of exploration, with new lands being discovered and new trade routes established. The Renaissance was in full swing, bringing with it a renewed interest in art, literature, and of course, food. This era witnessed the rise of powerful empires, groundbreaking scientific advancements, and a flourishing of culture. Amidst this backdrop of transformation, a fascinating culinary story unfolded. One of the most significant events of this period was the Columbian Exchange. This exchange of goods, plants, and animals between the Old World and the New World had a profound impact on European cuisine. From the Americas came new and exotic ingredients like tomatoes, potatoes, and beans, which would eventually become staples in European kitchens. These new foods weren't immediately embraced. People were hesitant, unsure of how to prepare them. The 16th century also saw the rise of humanism. This philosophical movement emphasized the importance of the individual and the natural world. This new way of thinking influenced food culture. People became more interested in the origins of their food and the ways in which it was prepared. There was a growing appreciation for fresh, seasonal ingredients. In conclusion, the 16th century was a time of great upheaval and innovation in Europe. The Columbian Exchange, the Renaissance, and the rise of humanism all had a profound impact on the way people ate and thought about food. In 16th century Europe, food was much more than just fuel for the body. It played a central role in social interactions, religious observances, and cultural traditions. Meals were often communal affairs. People came together to share not just food, but also stories, news, and laughter. Food was also an important marker of social status. The wealthy enjoyed a lavish and varied diet. Their tables were laden with meat, imported spices, and elaborate sweets. The poor, on the other hand, relied on a simple diet of bread, porridge, and seasonal vegetables. Meat was a luxury they could rarely afford. Religious customs had a significant influence on eating habits. Fasting was a common practice, particularly during Lent. On fast days, people abstained from meat and dairy products. This led to the development of a rich tradition of fish and vegetable dishes. Feast days, on the other hand, were occasions for indulgence and celebration. Food also played a role in diplomacy and politics. Grand banquets were often held to impress foreign dignitaries and potential allies. These lavish affairs were a chance for rulers to display their wealth and power. They were also an opportunity to conduct negotiations and forge alliances over sumptuous meals. The 16th century European table was a reflection of both local bounty and far-off lands. While new ingredients from the Americas were slowly making their way into European kitchens, traditional staples still formed the backbone of the culinary landscape. Grains, vegetables, meat, and dairy products were the cornerstones of most meals. Bread, in its many forms, was the true staff of life. Made from rye, barley, or wheat, it was a staple for all classes. Oats were another important grain, commonly eaten as porridge or used in bread making. Vegetables, both cultivated and foraged, added variety and nutrients to the diet. Onions, garlic, leeks, cabbages, and turnips were common fare. Peas and beans provided protein. Meat was a highly prized food, though its availability varied greatly depending on social standing. Beef, pork, and mutton were the most common meats consumed. Wild game, such as deer, boar, and rabbit, graced the tables of the nobility and were also a source of sustenance for those who lived off the land. Dairy products like milk, cheese, and butter were an important part of the diet. They were particularly vital in areas where fresh vegetables were scarce during the winter months. Spices, those exotic treasures from the East, continued to captivate European palates. Pepper, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and ginger added warmth and complexity to both sweet and savory dishes. Sugar, though increasingly available, remained a luxury good throughout much of the century. Honey and fruit, when in season, provided natural sweetness to the diet. The 16th century European table was far from monolithic. Each region boasted its own unique culinary traditions, shaped by local ingredients, cultural influences, and historical circumstances. Italy, with its warm climate and fertile land, was a land of olive oil, tomatoes, and fresh herbs. Pasta in its many forms was already a beloved staple. Spain, influenced by its Moorish heritage, embraced almonds, citrus fruits and spices like saffron and cumin. France, with its diverse terroir, developed a sophisticated culinary tradition. Butter, cream and wine were essential ingredients in many French dishes. England was known for its hearty pies, roasted meats and rich sauces. Germany and Eastern Europe embraced hearty stews, pickled vegetables and smoked meats, reflecting the colder climate and the need for food preservation. Seafood played a vital role in the cuisines of coastal regions. The Mediterranean yielded an abundance of fish, shellfish and sea vegetables. The North Sea and the Atlantic provided cod, herring and other cold water species. These maritime regions developed unique methods for preserving fish such as salting, smoking and pickling. Section 5. The art of the hearth cooking techniques of the past. The kitchens of 16th century Europe may have lacked modern conveniences, but they were far from primitive. Cooks of the era were masters of their craft, employing a variety of techniques to transform simple ingredients into nourishing and flavorful meals. Fireplaces and hearths were the heart of the kitchen, providing heat for cooking over open flames in ovens and on spits. Roasting, a technique that involved cooking food over an open fire or in an oven, was a popular method for preparing meat. This method allowed the fat to render, basting the meat and creating a flavorful crust. Boiling was another common cooking method used for vegetables, soups and stews. Poaching, a gentler method of cooking in liquid, was often used for delicate foods like fish and eggs. Frying, while requiring more fat, was a relatively quick and flavorful way to cook food. Baking, typically done in wood-fired ovens, was used for bread, pies and other pastries. Preserving food was essential in an era without refrigeration. Drying, salting, smoking, pickling and fermenting were all common methods used to extend the shelf life of perishable ingredients. Section 6. Beyond the plate, food and social status in the 16th century. In the rigidly hierarchical society of 16th century Europe, food was a powerful symbol of social standing. The wealthy elite, eager to demonstrate their wealth and refinement, dined on a lavish array of dishes. Their tables groaned under the weight of roasted meats, exotic spices and elaborate sugar sculptures. The consumption of meat in particular was a marker of status. The wealthy could afford to eat meat regularly, while the poor might only taste it on special occasions. The types of food consumed also served to differentiate social classes. White bread, made from refined wheat flour, was the preferred bread of the upper classes. The lower classes ate coarser breads made from rye, barley or oats. Spices, imported from distant lands, were another luxury reserved for the wealthy. Sugar, too, was a costly commodity used to sweeten the dishes and confections of the elite. The presentation of food was also carefully orchestrated to reflect social status. Elaborate table manners dictated how food was to be eaten, and special utensils were used for different dishes. The wealthy dined from pewter or silver, while the poor made do with wooden bowls and spoons. Meals were often accompanied by music, entertainment and lively conversation, further reinforcing the social hierarchy and providing a stage for the elite to display their wealth and refinement. Section 7. A feast for the senses. Special occasions and culinary delights. Special occasions in 16th century Europe called for culinary extravagance. Religious festivals, weddings, banquets and other celebrations were opportunities to indulge in culinary delights. These feasts were a chance to impress guests, reinforce social bonds and celebrate the bounty of the season. The preparation for these events was often a communal effort, with cooks, servants and even family members working together to create a memorable spread. Religious holidays in particular were associated with specific foods. Christmas, for example, was a time for roast goose, mince pies and spiced wine. Easter called for eggs, lamb and sweetbreads. Weddings were another occasion for culinary indulgence. Elaborate cakes, often multi-tiered and richly decorated, were a central part of the celebration. These cakes were symbols of fertility and good luck. Banquets hosted by the wealthy and powerful were the grandest of culinary spectacles. These elaborate meals could last for hours and often featured dozens of dishes, each more elaborate than the last. Musicians, dancers, and even actors provided entertainment between courses. These banquets were not just about food, they were about showcasing wealth, power, and good taste. Section 8. Seeds of Change. The enduring legacy of 16th century food. The 16th century may seem like a distant epoch, but its culinary legacy continues to shape the way we eat today. Many of the ingredients that we now consider staples, such as tomatoes, potatoes, and beans, were first introduced to Europe during this period. The Columbian exchange, for all its complexities, had a profound and lasting impact on global cuisine. It's hard to imagine Italian cuisine without tomatoes, Indian cuisine without chilies, or Irish cuisine without potatoes. The 16th century also saw the development of new cooking techniques and the refinement of existing ones. The use of spices, while already established in European cooking, became more nuanced and sophisticated. The art of pastry making flourished, laying the groundwork for the elaborate desserts of later centuries. Many of the basic principles of food preservation, such as pickling, drying, and smoking, are still practiced today, albeit with modern adaptations. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of 16th century European food is its emphasis on regionality and seasonality. While globalization has certainly led to a more homogenized food culture, there is a growing movement to rediscover and celebrate the unique culinary traditions of different regions. Chefs and home cooks alike are embracing local ingredients, reviving heirloom varieties, and exploring the flavors of the past. Section 9. A culinary journey through time. Stepping back into the culinary world of 16th century Europe is a journey filled with fascinating discoveries. From the humblest peasant's table to the most lavish banquet hall, food played an integral role in this era. It nourished the body, delighted the senses, and reflected the social, cultural, and religious fabric of society. While our modern palates might find some of the flavors and textures of the past unfamiliar, exploring the culinary history of this period offers a valuable perspective on our own relationship with food. It reminds us that food is more than just sustenance. It is a powerful lens through which we can view history, culture, and the human experience. So the next time you slice into a juicy tomato, savor the warmth of cinnamon in a pastry, or marvel at the variety of foods available to us, take a moment to appreciate the culinary legacy of 16th century Europe. It is a legacy that continues to enrich our tables and our lives today.